The same, that we playing by different rules. You can't see the vision, we living at different views. Until we complete the mission, keep getting up, never snooze. I walked a mile in my shoes, had the mind of a fool, chasing diamonds and jewels. Trust me, I was confused. Started minding my business and used my mind as a tool. Ended up finding my purpose and found the time to get to it. They told me I couldn't do it. They told me I couldn't make it. They sold it, could never break it. That's sadly mistaken. I need a piece of the pie. I want it so bad I can taste it. They told me like told me, keep on running toes. They gon' take them. Used to lose, built to win. Applied myself, I felt it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out. I'm getting it in, yeah. No time for no loss, I pay for the cost. I'm winning to win, yeah. Refuse to lose, I'm built to win. Applied myself, I felt it in.
Welcome back to episode 3 of CTC, Carl Talking College. I'm your gracious host, Carl. I got my boy back, Ace. Hey, they said we were so good. Episode 1, they wanted to see us back, so I had to bring my boy back on. How you doing, Ace?
I'm doing good, man. It's a pleasure to be back, man. I'm glad they enjoyed the last episode. Hopefully we can make this one just as good, if not better.
Yes, sir. So last episode, me and Ace was on. We did the ACC. That was episode 1. Episode 2 was the Big Ten, which not going to be the Big Ten next year, as you know. Breaking news from yesterday. We add the Big Ten. We Michigan State. Shout out. We add UCLA, USC. That was breaking news from like 2 years ago. But we also now add Washington and Oregon. So, conference schedules is going to be real great. Olympic sports. Ugh. I'm so sorry I got to go through that. Now, today's episode is going to be on the Big 12. Big 12 preview. We're going to go through all 14 games. All 14 teams. Give a win-loss. Give some nuggets. It's going to be fun. My camera's off. Let me get that back on. Sorry about that. All right. So let's touch on a little bit. We got a little breaking news about the Big 12. Not pertaining to this year, but pertaining to next year. Big 12 is now going to add Colorado, Arizona State, Arizona, and Utah. Ace, give me your thoughts about that.
I think it's just making already crazy conference crazier. You know what I mean? Like, this conference always has, like, just a Cinderella story, it seems, or, like, somebody who comes out of nowhere and just gets the title and wins it. So, you know, it just sounds like more of the same old thing to me. It's just going to be without the two old dogs that have always been there in Texas and Oklahoma.
Yes, sir. As Ace just said, Texas and Oklahoma moves on to SEC after this year. So this is the last year that Texas and Oklahoma will be in the Big 12. My thoughts, it sucks for the Pac-12. They try to get a TV deal. The Big 12 comes in and steals it. Now the Big 12
who's up at that time, you know? Yeah, nobody's up to watch those Pac-12 games unless you bet.
I try. Look, I be up. I know I'm in the minority, but I be up.
you be having money on them jokes too.
Again, like I said, episode 1, me and Ace are degenerates. I ain't ashamed to say it.
For sure. But, hey, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. For sure.
I be up, man. Younger me, I'm for sure up. I'm excited. Me now is like, I'm trying. I'm fighting. For my life.
I can feel it right now.
I'm fighting for my life. But my opinion, man, in terms of just strictly football, this is good for the Big 12. It's strictly football. I get it logistically. Pac-12 is dying out. They got to scramble, try to find some teams to fill their conference so they can come and try to get a TV deal by next year. Their deal runs out next year. But for the Big 12, great for them. You add 4 teams. Utah, which won the Pac-12 back-to-back years, they bring championship pedigree. Arizona and basketball with the Big 12. Arizona, Kansas now you get twice a year. That's crazy matchups. Arizona State's on the rise. They just made the tournament last year. You throw that into that conference. I think that makes the Big 12 like the best conference in college basketball. I think it already was. It just heightens it. So good gets for them. But logistically for the Olympic sports and everything, it might be a little stretch. No, that's not too far off. Not as much as the Big Ten. The Big Ten is crazy.
Now, this is for all the sports. It's not just football?
I think this is for every sport.
Okay. Yeah, for every sport, that's kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
I think this is for every sport.
I don't think it makes sense for every sport as much as it does for football. But, I don't know. I'm not in those positions, so I can't say.
Yeah, me neither. I hope if there's a way that it can be just for football and basketball, but it doesn't make sense to me where you can make them just Pac-12. I mean, Big 12 and football and basketball, and state Pac-12 and Olympic sports, because it's not like a Notre Dame. It's not like, all right, they're ACC and everything else, but in football they're independent. So I don't know.
Hey, I saw this crazy meme earlier today. It was like some little giant. It was all the teams in Notre Dame.
I was about to bring it up. That was hilarious. It looked like an Elden Ring boss. That was funny.
For real.
Yeah. So, but let's talk about the Big 12 coming up this year. Big 12 adds 4 teams this year. They take 3 from the AAC. They just like taking teams for conferences. They take UCF, Houston, and Cincy, all from the American Athletic Conference, and they get BYU to convert from independence into the Big 12, which is huge. Ace, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good move. You know, it adds a little more competitive nature to the conference. I mean, I think usually when you thought of the Big 12, you thought of like, okay, high-scoring teams, not a lot of defense and things like that. But, you know, the games would be exciting. That's about it. You know, the only strong teams coming out of there were usually either Oklahoma or one of the other outliers, because let's be real, Texas hasn't really been a factor in the last umpteen years. You know what I mean? So, I think it gives the Big 12 a little bit of a competitive, not an advantage, but I guess a boost, because UCF is a good team. Like, all these teams that they added, they have great seasons individually, but a lot of times when they have those great seasons, they're outliers because they're not in the Power 5 conference.
Yeah. So, like, Houston, they had a pretty good season last year. Again, great offense, mid-tier defense. BYU is pretty balanced. I say they're pretty balanced. They had a decent year. I think more so BYU is going to be the one most hit with a culture shock, because this is my analogy on BYU. Not analogy, but analysis on BYU. When they play, they'll beat up on opponents they're supposed to beat up on. That's what they'll do. But when they play competition, it don't really go too well for BYU.
I feel that way about a lot of these teams, to be honest with you. I think the grind of having to play week in and week out against better competition that you've been facing is going to be a hard blow for some of these teams, if not all of them. You know?
Yeah, I always go back to the Zach Wilson season at BYU, where they were amping up BYU. BYU actually got ranked. They were considering them as playoff contenders, and they played Coastal, and they didn't know what hit them. Zach Wilson looked pretty bad.
BYU usually is good, but like you say, to a certain extent, you know?
Yeah. So
there's a couple runs between them and the best.
Yep. And the last team, Cincy, which actually made the playoff as a group of 5 schools. So shout out to Cincy, man, breaking barriers. Absolutely. Now it's part of the Power 5.
But the game when they got there, you know, we saw why they probably shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, they lost to the national champions, though. But yeah,
that's true. But they also got their ass whooped. You know?
language. But yeah. But so we also got to talk a little bit about a current Big 12 team, and that's Iowa State. Iowa State catching heat for having players and former players gamble on games. 2 of the players, one actually is a starting quarterback now, or may not be a starting quarterback now, Hunter Deckers, and one is an all-lineman. Thoughts on just the whole gambling thing with Iowa State? Do you think it's going to hurt them much? Do you think it's not?
To be honest, I'm not sure if those players were really clocking any time on the field, but I'm sure it's definitely going to affect them just for the sole sake of being a distraction. You know what I mean? Having to deal with that, especially the coaches, you know, they're going to have to answer for that probably for the first couple of weeks of the season. So I'm definitely sure they're not happy about that.
Yeah, and Matt Campbell, you know, he runs a tight ship, 5-star work over 5-star talent. That's his motto. So, but Hunter Deckers threw for 3,000 yards, but he also threw for 19 touchdowns, 14 picks. So, I mean, I'm not really a huge fan of Hunter Deckers' performance, not as a person. Don't watch this and kill me. Hunter is just performance on the field. But yeah, I do. If he does get suspended the whole year or whatever happens, I do think it may affect them slightly. But Iowa State's strength, as we're going to get into later, was defense. So
yeah, I mean, it's not like we were expecting lightning numbers out of their offense anyway.
Yeah, so my last point is the Big 12 review. We had a Big 12 championship game of TCU, who was undefeated in Big 12 play versus Kansas State. Kansas State came out on top with the W, being the being the Big 12 champions, reigning champs now coming into this year. Deuce Vaughn, great running back, one of my favorite backs in the league, me in the country, now gone to the NFL. I think it was a really good game. It was high scoring, not a lot of defense. Big 12 play. What can you expect? But it was exciting to see this for the Big 12. Ace, any thoughts on the Big 12 championship before we go into these previews?
Yeah, it was a great game. It was basically anything that you can want in a college football game. It was lightning scoring. It was overtime. It was just high stakes. I mean, granted, I kind of wish TCU won, but that's neither here nor there.
I ain't gonna lie, I want K-State to win. As you know, I'm a sucker for K-State, man. I don't know, going back to Jake Waters and Tyler Lockett, and I don't know. I for some reason just like Kansas State. So, and then my guy Skylar Thompson from 2 years ago.
Like, I can understand why you would like them for sure.
Yeah, they just had a special place in my heart. Skylar Thompson was my guy. If Skylar Thompson didn't get hurt 2 years ago, they might have been back-to-back champs. Who knows?
What was the other dude? Colin Klein?
Colin Klein, who's now a coach. That was my guy. Yup. So they just always got a special place in my heart for some reason. But let's get into it. We're going to go on to the Baylor Bears. Baylor Bears won the Big 12 championship a couple years ago, 2 years ago to be exact. But they're coming off a 6-6 season, 4-5 in conference play. Lost the Armed Forces Bowl to Air Force. Blake Shapen, starting quarterback, does return. They do lose Kyron Jones, who's the backup quarterback. He goes again from the ACC episode to VTech. Their leading rusher, Richard Reese, does return. They do have a transfer from Arkansas, Jackson, Johnny Carter, a cornerback, transfers in from Utah State. Ace, hold on one more second. Ace, they had 58th. They were 58th in total defense, 62nd in passing defense. Like we said, is the Big 12. 62nd in rushing defense, 45th in total offense, 69th in passing, and 43rd in rushing. Ace, give me something about Baylor.
I want to piggyback just off what you were saying. Like, defense is the main thing about them. This is a team that were Big 12 champs in 2021. You know what I mean? They were allowing 19.8 points per game that year. Last year, 30.7. So that tells you all you need to know right there. It's a team that fluctuated a lot over the past, about 4 years. You know what I mean? Let's see. They were in the conference championship in 2019. They lost. 2020, they went 2-7. But, who didn't have a bad season in 2020? Then 2021, they went and won, and obviously. And last year, they lost their last 4 games. And what was their record? 6-7.
6-6. 6-7 with the bowl game.
Yeah, with the bowl game. That's pretty unacceptable. I have a cool little tidbit about them. Just another thing about their defense. They were 1-3 in November, and they gave up 437 yards per game. It's like, how can you really be a good team if you're giving up those kind of numbers? Like, I do think,
bruh.
Exactly.
Those sound effects. Just keep going.
But yeah,
keep going live with being produced. So just keep going.
But this is the thing, like, despite all that, their defense was ranked 4th in the Big 12. So they can do some things right. You know what I mean? They just lack the pass rush, and they're losing their leading tackler, Dennis Doyle. But they got a Liberty transfer coming in, Mike Smith, who should take over that role. I heard he's pretty good, but we don't really know exactly how that's going to translate to Big 12 play.
Yes, sir.
Another thing, they have on the offensive line, BYU transfers. They got the Barrington brothers, Campbell and Clark. And Clark is supposedly going to be a pretty good NFL prospect for next year. So maybe that'll help with their rebuilding O-line. And hopefully that'll lead to the running backs leading the offense and whatnot from there. Because when you think about BYU, it's a gritty team. They got to run well. They got to have good defense. If they can't do that, then are they really BYU?
Not at all. And to piggyback off your point, 30-point-something points a game and 4th in the Big 12 in defense. So that's just lets you know defense is not prioritized in the Big 12. Yeah. So they returned 8 starters, 5 on defense, 3 on offense. 37th, bad handwriting, 37th overall recruiting class. And one more thing, I got to shout out to Terrell Bernard and Jalen Petrie, big contributing factors in that 2021 Baylor Bear defense. So shout out to them. They're now in the league. We're going to get into the schedule. First game of the year, we have Texas State. I have them winning that game.
I have them winning as well.
Then we go to Utah, where I have them going to take an L at Baylor.
Yes, I also have them taking the L to Utah.
Maybe another matchup next year coming to the Big 12. Moving on to Long Island, I have them getting a W. That's an FCS school.
Yeah, they should get a W if they have some self-respect.
Then we start Big 12 play with a game versus Texas. I have that as a loss.
I think this would be a rout.
Yeah, me too. Then we go to at UCF in the hot Florida sun, where I have them taking a loss.
Yeah, I have them taking a loss with this one as well.
All right, moving on from UCF, we go to Texas Tech, where I have them getting their first W in Big 12 play.
I actually have them taking the L on this one.
Okay. Then we go to at Cincy, where I have them taking a W.
I have them taking a W as well.
All right. Then we go to Iowa State in I believe a rematch. Not a rematch, but I think they lost this game last year. If I'm not mistaken. But I have Baylor taking a W. I know this game was close. I just can't. I think Baylor pulled away late, but I got them taking a W.
Yeah, I can't really remember what it was last year, but I do have them taking a W for this one.
All right, and then they play Houston at home, where I have them catching the fourth straight W.
I have them on their third straight W. Yes.
Yes, sir. And from Houston, I have them at Kansas State, where I have Kansas State winning this game, Baylor taking a loss.
Yes, Baylor is definitely taking a loss to Kansas State.
All right, from Kansas State, I have at TCU, where I have TCU winning, Baylor taking another loss.
I have Baylor taking another loss as well. But, however, I do want to say, I do think that a lot of these games will be close. And I want to just say that as a trend for the Big 12 as a whole, this conference is defined by close games. So whoever can win those close games is most likely going to be in the Big 12 championship and get that playoff berth.
For sure. Speaking of close games, we had Baylor finishing the season with a game at home against West Virginia, a game that they lost and a close one last year. Give me Baylor to finish out the season with a W.
Yeah, give me Baylor to finish the season strong on a W.
All right, so that puts me having Baylor at 7-5, 5-4 in conference play, making them bowl eligible. Go ahead, Ace. What you got your final record as?
Yeah, I have them about at 6-6, barely bowl eligible. Who knows what they'll be in?
All right, so you got them going the same as last year. It's not bad. I'm not mad at that. Like you said,
I don't think they're a great team, but I do know that not playing Oklahoma or Oklahoma State helps them, or BYU over Kansas. You know, getting Texas at home. I mean, who knows? You know, maybe they can pull out some juice that we they had. And the funny thing about that matchup, the home team has won the last 5 meetings, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I think that trend ends, but nice little trend though.
Hey, stats.
Moving on to BYU, we got BYU finished 7-5 last year, won the New Mexico Bowl versus SMU. I think that was kind of like a little shootout last year, if I'm not mistaken. At the end,
not a shootout, but it was a close game.
Yep. Last year, they were independent, as I mentioned earlier. Now in the Big 12, they lost Jaren Hall to the NFL, Puka Nacua to the NFL, Chris Brooks, running back, to the NFL, Keaton Slovis, who I'm not really high on, transfers in from Pitt. Aiden Robinson transferred from UNLV, running back who had 1,000 yards last year in the Mountain West. Because the Mountain West isn't a bad conference at all. 9 touchdowns. They returned 11 starters, 7 on defense. Hey, they're going to fit right in with this. 94th in total defense, 82nd in passing defense, and 98th in rushing defense. Ace, give me something about BYU.
I got another one. 128th in opponents' passing completions. 69%. Right in. 408 yards per game allowed, 30 points per game allowed. Wow, this is probably one of the worst defenses last year. It's really crazy when you think about it. But the head coach fired basically everybody on their defensive staff except for the cornerback coach, who happens to be a pretty good recruiter for them. So I understand why he stayed. So I don't know. Let's see what they can do. They're bringing in defensive coordinator Jay Hill, who was with Weber State from the FCS. Yes, and Weber State had one of the better defenses in the Big Sky Conference, I guess, for the past couple of years, apparently. So let's see that translates to FCS ball. FCS.
Yes, sir. 47th overall recruiting class. We're going to go on to the schedule. Speaking of FCS, the first game is against Sam Houston State, who's actually a really good FCS school, but I have BYU taking a W.
Yeah, BYU taking a W as well.
All right, from that, we go to Southern Utah, where I have BYU taking another W.
Yeah, same.
All right. From that, we go to at Arkansas, which I think is going to be. I don't know. I think it's going to be close. For some reason, this game, I think last year was close, right? But I have
Yeah,
Arkansas winning.
it was pretty close. So maybe I'm thinking of somebody else because I know Arkansas played somebody and it was like a pretty good game. It might have been BYU.
You talking about the bowl game last year? That bowl game was crazy last year.
I don't know. I don't know if it was a
You
bowl
think about
game.
the Kansas bowl game?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. It's like 40 or something like that. Yeah,
that game was crazy. I think the final was like 55, 53 and like triple overtime or something like that.
Yeah, definitely triple.
Yeah. All right. So at Arkansas, I have BYU taking their first L.
Yes, I have them taking the L as well. I think Arkansas just has too much for them.
Yes, sir. Moving on, we have the first game in Big 12 conference play for them at Kansas, where I have them taking an L.
I had them taking the L as well, but there's an asterisk beside it. Still
toss up for sure.
Still interesting to see how Kansas is going to come out.
Both team defenses are very shaky. From Kansas, we go to Cincy, where I have them taking another L, having them 0-2 in conference play.
I have them actually taking a W in this one. I don't think Cincy is going to be that great. I mean, I heard they're bringing in Emory Jones and all these people and new coaching. I just think it's going to be a culture shock for them.
Yeah, we'll touch on to them. Touch on to the new coach in a second. From Cincy, we have at TCU, where I have BYU taking a fourth straight L.
Yes, I have them taking an L as well.
All right, moving on from TCU to Texas Tech, where I have them getting their first W in Big 12 play.
Texas Tech, they're taking the L.
You have them losing to Texas Tech.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, that's two Texas Tech W's off the gate. I'm interested to see this Texas Tech segment.
I like this. I like Texas Tech.
All right, moving on from Texas Tech, we have at Texas, where I have them taking the L. Yes, sir. From Texas, we have at West Virginia, where I have them getting a W in Morgantown.
I have them getting a W in a hard-fought game. That probably shouldn't be that hard-fought.
Yes, sir. From West Virginia, we move on to Iowa State, where I have them getting another W.
I have them getting a W as well over Iowa State.
From Iowa State, we move on to Oklahoma, where I have them taking an L.
I have them taking an L as well.
And to finish the season, they finished at Oklahoma State. I don't know. For some reason, I think they ruined their senior day. It's a toss-up in my opinion, but I think they do come out with the W over Oklahoma State.
I can see that. I think that at that point in the season, they may not have so much to play for. So I can absolutely see them coming in there. Or maybe they're playing for their bowl eligibility,
That's exactly what I was going to touch on. I haven't.
And playing hard. But, I mean, this is the thing about this BYU team. I think of all the teams as well, they are the only ones that come in that have an actual home field advantage. You know what I mean? Like, they have the fan base. They're dedicated to them. They're going to root for them whether they win, lose, or draw. So I think that's something that's going to be very valuable in the Big 12. And hopefully they can use that to their advantage, especially bringing in, like you said, Keaton Slovis, who I'm not sold on either. I mean, he's bounced around. He has nearly 10,000 yards in his career. But, I mean, he's still not a guy who you think is somebody you want to put out there in the hard times of the game and going to pull out that W for you.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Keaton Slovis. I think he had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Drake London. He still looked bad. So, yeah, I'm really not sold on bro.
But then this is another thing about BYU. They had winning records in the last 16 to 17 years and bowl eligible in the last 17 to 18 years. So
this is exactly why I think that coming into Oklahoma State at 5-6, they're going to be amped and they're going to get the W and go 6-6, 4-5 in conference play, making them bowl eligible.
Yeah, pride goes a long way, for sure.
Exactly. And I think for that reason, they beat Oklahoma State. But I would like to say that, I mean, yeah, BYU has for sure a crazy environment to play in, but so is Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. Like these places, they get rowdy too.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I have BYU. Oh, go ahead. Hey, it's my bad.
But are they Mormons? That's the real question.
A lot of energy built up.
It's a lot of pent up energy. That's all I'm saying. Get ruckus. Hey
man, this is a PG show, man. All right, so we got BYU. I have BYU, finishing 6-6, 4-5 a conference play. As I said earlier, Ace, what do you have BYU finishing at?
I have BYU finishing at 5-7 or 6-6, or somewhere around there.
Okay, so you have them possibly missing a bowl game. Respect. I'm not mad at that. Like I said, a couple of these games are toss-ups. Moving on from BYU, we have Cincy 9-3 last year in the American Conference. My bad. Like I said, they were in the American Conference 9-3, 6-2 in conference play. Lost the Fenway Bowl to Louisville. Funny enough, they take Louisville's head coach Scott Satterfield is now the coach of Cincy University. Lost Tyler Scott, wide receiver to the NFL. Lost Ben Bryant, quarterback to Northwestern. Good luck there for you, brother. Lost Charles McClellan to the NFL. Emory Jones, as Ace has stated earlier, has transferred in from Arizona State by way of Florida. I'm not sold on Emory Jones. I will just let you know up front.
All right.
Braden Smith from Louisville. Xavier Henderson from Florida. Both are transfer wide receivers to try to replace the production of Tyler Scott. They return eight starters, 6 on defense. Ace, go ahead and give me something about Cincy.
Well, I this isn't necessarily about Cincy, but it is about their new defensive coordinator, Brian Brown, who came from Louisville as well. Louisville actually led the nation in sacks last year and was 7th in tackles for loss. So hopefully they can get some of that juice that he brings. I don't know if it's going to be a quick turnaround in the first year for them. I think that kind of depends on the talent that they bring in. But I do know that the D-line is the strength for this defense. So that should be good. And a defense that's probably better than their offense as well, They're returning redshirt sophomore Dante Corleone, who actually was the Pro Football Focus highest rated defensive player in 2022. I didn't write down what he plays, but we got that. They got a Louisville transfer that was a outside linebacker that replaced their leading tackler who's gone. And, their DBs have been solid for the past couple of years, i.e. Sauce Gardner, So hopefully that'll stay the same in a conference that has a lot of pretty good receiving corps that's going around. I think the other thing will be is seeing where their offense lays, Like you said, they got Emory Jones coming in. They're going to have a new wide receiver core, new offensive line. So it leaves a lot of questions on them. I'm not too sold on them, but we'll see.
Yeah, and if you're gonna shout out Sauce Gardner, you got to shout out my dog Kobe Bryant, who played on the other side. That Cincy, that tandem at Cincy was nice. So they had 29th total in defense, 11th in passing, 72nd in rushing, with the 55th overall recruiting class. We'll jump into the schedule. First game versus Eastern Kentucky. I have a W.
Yeah, big dub for them.
All right, then we go to at Pitt. As previously stated in our ACC preview, I have them losing to Pitt.
Yeah, big L for them.
Yes, sir. Moving on, we have them Miami of Ohio. I have them taking a W.
Yeah, they should take a W against the Redhawks.
Yes, sir. Then we had the first game in Big 12 play against Oklahoma. I have a L win for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I have an L for them as well. Oklahoma should come out strong in their Big 12 opener.
Excuse me. Yes, sir. Then we go to at BYU. As previously stated, I have Cincy taking the dub.
I have Cincy taking the L.
Oh, I said Cincy. My bad. Yeah. I have Cincy taking the W. BYU taking the L. Okay, yep. Cool.
Yeah, I have them taking the L.
I screwed messed myself up. My fault, fellas. Iowa State. I have them losing to Iowa State.
I have them losing as well, but there is a question mark behind it.
Oh, for sure, a toss up.
Like I said earlier, a lot of these games are one possession games.
Yes, sir, for sure. I just don't think Iowa State got an offense enough to. Not Iowa State. I don't think Cincy's gonna have offense enough. I don't trust Emory Jones. Yeah. The reason why I gave this game an L
really has a better offense. That's the point.
Yeah, Emory Jones is the sole reason why I gave this game an L and a W for Iowa State, because Iowa State
and if you know Scott Satterfield loves to run the ball. So that should cater to Emory Jones, who I know he wants to pass, he wants to prove he's passing, but let's be real.
It's very shaky on that. And Iowa State running the ball fits Iowa State defense. So we're going to move on to Baylor, and I have that as an L, as previously stated, for Cincy.
Likewise, I have that as the L for Cincy.
All right, so at Oklahoma State, I have that as an L.
I have that as an L as well.
All right, to at home versus UCF, I have that as an L, as two American Conference teams battle it out.
Yeah, their old punching buddy. Yeah, they're taking the L.
All right. Then we have at Houston, another former another former now back to conference play. I have them beating Houston.
I have them winning at Houston as well.
All right. Then at West Virginia, I have them with a W, but to me it's a toss up. But I have them winning.
I have them winning with a question mark as well.
And the last game versus Kansas at home, senior day, I have as an L.
Yeah, that should be an L for sure. Kansas
All
coming
right.
in
So that has me having Cincy at 5-7, 3-6 in conference play, making them miss the bowl. How about you, Ace?
I have Cincy at 4-8 or 5-7.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man, it's gonna be a rough adjustment.
Or the smallest violin, which one?
The roughest adjustment. All right, so I accidentally did this one out of order. So I'm gonna put it back in order for the show. I have next Houston. Houston went 7-5 last year, 5-3 in conference play, which was the American Conference, the final team. No, excuse me. You still got UCF to do. I'm sorry. The second team to transfer from the AAC, American Athletic Conference. They won the Independence Bowl versus Louisiana Lafayette last year. Oh, my bad. They lost Clayton Tune. I actually really liked Clayton Tune a lot last year in college football. Lost Clayton Tune to the draft. Lost Tank Dell to the draft. Tank Dell is just a dog. There's no other way to explain it there. Just a dog, can do it all. Receive, run the rock, punt return, kick return, can do it all. They lose one of, again, I thought he was a low-key guy. Derek Parrish, D lineman from Houston. I remember watching the NC State game. He had 4 sacks in the game. He balled. His last year got cut short due to injury, but man, at least he's in the NFL. I think if somebody gives him a shot, he can be a nice rotational guy. They do, however, gain Tony Mathis, running back from West Virginia. He transfers in. Donovan Smith, quarterback transfer from Texas Tech, he's a dual threat guy. 25th in total offense last year, 105th in total defense last year. So again, fits right into the Big 12. Returned 11 starters, 7 on offense, 4 on defense. Ace, give me something about Houston.
Houston, ironically, it reminds me a lot about Baylor. A great 2021 season. I believe they were 12-2. And then just completely crumbled this last season. They gave up 20.4 points per game in 2021. Last year, 32 points per game. I think they also got a pretty bad draw of a schedule. Apparently, they had one of the toughest schedules in the NCAA. Their opponents' records combined for 96-60. So and also they're 1-12 versus Power 5 teams since 2018. So they're going to have to. They're one of the teams that has to prove a lot that they can hang with the big boys. You know what I mean? They play the top 5 teams in the Big 12 from last year, so they're definitely going to have the opportunity to show their mettle. Like you said, they had Donovan Smith, the Texas Tech transfer, coming in, who threw for over 2,500 yards and almost 20 touchdowns. But I know he's a big guy. He's 6'5", about 240, and can run. Has a good arm, so maybe he'll take advantage. And granted, they're not running the same offense because we have their offensive coach to you. You know what I mean? And we'll probably do better than they did, but that's neither here nor there. You mentioned their linemen. They have a pretty great left tackle in Patrick Paul. This guy is 6'7", 315, and he's only allowed 4 sacks in over 1,000 snaps. So yeah, that speaks for itself. Everybody else in the line, they may have to prove themselves, but I'm not too sure about the offense, but I knew Patrick Paul, he's definitely going to be a beast. On their defense, they have to replace their top 5 tacklers and their top 2 pass rushers. Not really too sure how they're going to do that, especially when their roster's been depleted by transfers. But man, we'll see. Maybe they can pull some things out, but if somebody's sleeping, I guess.
Yeah, and to your point about Houston last year, they came into the season with high expectations. Everybody had them as heavy favorites to win the AAC, and they disappointed everybody. They came in ranked in everything, and they dropped the game to I can't remember if they dropped the game to NC State. I think they actually ended up winning it in a very close one. I think it went to multiple overtimes. They dropped the game to Kansas. I remember that game, Kansas. That was like their coming out party last year. Houston defense couldn't stop Kansas for nothing. Kansas ran it up on them. And it just showed that the defense was, like you said, they gave up 30-something points a game. That defense was bad last year.
Yeah. But ironically, every game was a fight for them. I mean, they were in most of their games, but they just had to rally late for some reason. I have a funny stat right here. They scored 84 points in their first quarter through the whole season, 143 in the fourth quarter. So they're just a team that started late. Maybe if they can switch that around this year, maybe they'll come out with some more W's.
I just thought about it. Weren't they in the game where SMU dropped like 70-something points? Or like 80-something points? It was SMU Houston, right?
Yeah, they lost. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that game. It was like 80-something to like 60. I remember that game. That was, Houston defense, man. It needs a lot of work. All right, so we'll jump. They had the 49th overall ranked recruiting class. We'll jump into the schedule of UTSA of rematch. They won. Frank Harris, my guy, one of my favorite quarterbacks. Even though he's old as a mug in college football, he
we got
had
a lot
a career.
of super seniors out here.
Yeah, the super seniors for sure. I have them losing to UTSA because that defense is bad, and I love Frank Harris.
I actually have them winning against UTSA, but I do like UTSA. So, it is a toss-up for sure.
I mean, just a little nugget that might be. I might do something on UTSA coming up very shortly. I may or may not be. All right, moving on from UTSA, we have at Rice, where I have them winning.
I have them winning as well at Rice.
Yeah, shout out to JT Daniels, but yeah. All right, from Rice, we have the first game on week 3 at Big 12 play versus TCU, where I have them taking the L.
TCU, so whack them boys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. From TCU, we go to FCS Sam Houston State, where I have them taking a W.
I have them taking a W, but who knows?
Yeah. Hey, look, this is one of them games where when they talk about FCS schools upsetting,
especially a couple weeks in,
Mm-hmm.
They might be fiending for a little bit of respite, Like,
this could be a game where you have circled for technically upset alert, but
it wouldn't necessarily be an upset, but it's possible.
From that, we go to at Texas Tech, where I have them taking the L.
I have them taking the L as well at Texas Tech.
All right, then we have them versus West Virginia, where I have them getting a W.
I had them getting a W, but something about West Virginia on Thursdays,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just nostalgia or whatever the case may be,
but they in Houston, so it's not at West Virginia, so I got them taking the W.
That is true. It's true.
All right, from West Virginia, we go to Texas, where I have them L.
Yeah, we can pretty much say that we got them losing every single game from here on out.
Oh yeah, I for sure have that. I was just about to ask you. Do you have? We'll just go through it. So we have them losing every game. I'll read
Texas,
the game. Kansas State L, Baylor L, Cincy L, Oklahoma State L, UCF L, making Houston 3-9, 1-8 in conference play.
Yeah, 3-9. They're the punching back.
For sure, the Big 12 this year. But I don't know if I got them finishing last. That remains to be seen. Moving on.
Me too.
Moving on. We go from Houston to Iowa State. Iowa State dealing with the gambling thing, as mentioned earlier. Iowa State finished 4-8 last year, 1-8 in conference play. Lose Xavier Hutchinson, one of the best receivers in Iowa State history, to the NFL draft. Jerry Vaughn, leading tackler, returns 16 starters, 9 on offense, 7 on defense. 4th in total defense. This is Iowa State here. 4th in total defense. 14th in rushing defense. 10th in passing defense. 18th in scoring defense. Now let's get to that offense. 83rd in total offense. 38th in passing offense. 116th in rushing offense. So yeah, Deckers, if he does play, as mentioned before, he had 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns. Great. 14 interceptions, you have to cut down on that. In 12 games, you're averaging one and some change picks a game. You have to cut that down. Ace, give me something about Iowa State.
Yeah, like you said, Deckers, he has to step it up. This is his chance. They got a new, basically revamped offense coming in, but it still should be pro style, and that's what he was recruited for. He should at least maybe shine a little bit. Who knows? But like you said, it's like a I don't know if it's Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, but it's just like two sides of the same coin with these guys. you got a top 20 defense and you have a bottom 100 offense. You know what I mean? 20 points per game is unacceptable in the Big 12. Period. Like that, you cannot have that and survive. They had the 116th ranked rushing offense, 3.3 yards per rush. Crazy. However, they did lose 6 of their 8 games that they lost by 1 score. So
defense, man, that defense keep
yeah,
them in
that
games.
defense, that top 20 defense. Allowing 20 points per game when you score just 20, and you only allowing 20. I mean, how much can you complain? The
They're the
defense is
anti-Big 12.
definitely crazy. Like you said, 4th in the nation in total defense, number 1 in the Big 12 in yards allowed, passing yards, scoring defense, and run defense. That is super crazy. Hopefully they can keep that going. I mean, I'm not too sure how many people they're returning, but I do know that they return one of the best secondaries maybe in the nation. They have the quarterback tandem with TJ Tampa and Miles Purchase. Those guys are dogs, so we'll see what they do. And another thing about Iowa State that always bothers me, these guys have Breece Hall. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be running those guys. You know what I mean? They rushed for less than 1,300 yards last year. Breece Hall rushed for nearly 1,520 touchdowns in 2021. You can't have that. You can't have that if you're going to compete. And their offensive line is small, but they do have experience. So hopefully they can open up some holes for those guys and see what they can do.
Hey man, preach, man, because Brock Purdy had I ain't gonna get into all that, but yeah, just know what he had now in San Fran, he had at Iowa State. So, but hey, look, you preaching, man, about Bryce Hall.
Fix the offense, stop the turnovers. Convert some third downs. Maybe who knows what they got. Yeah, it could be more of a refresh than a rebuild. It just depends on them.
Yeah, shout out Breece Hall, man. He was my best back in the draft coming into that year before my boy K9, but he was still up there. He was still top 3. All right, so we're gonna move on to this. Oh, my bad. They had the 60th overall recruiting class. We're gonna move on to the schedule where they play Northern Iowa first game of the season, and surprise, surprise, I have them taking a loss.
Ooh, that's spicy. I can see it though, but I have them taking the W. It's at home. I mean, but like you said, it's possible.
They can't score. That's the issue. If they could score, if I can see even an inkling of scoring, I would have this as a W. They just can't score.
But you think they can score on them?
Well, I think it's just a bit defensive struggle. Just because Northern Iowa has a pretty good defense for FCS level. So I think it's just it'll be a defensive struggle.
Are they a playoff team in the FCS though?
I think they might have missed it last year, but I know 2 years ago they for sure made it. I can't remember if they made it last year.
I mean, the difference in 2 years, it can be night and day. Look at some of these Big 12 teams,
Yeah, that's true. But you got, like I said, you got the gambling incident. We don't know what the offense is going to look like. We don't even know if Hunter Ducker is going to play.
I'm not going to lie. That is something I didn't really take in consideration when I was doing this. I had heard about it, and I completely blanked on, making that a factor in my decisions.
Yeah, and plus,
I don't have them being that great anyway. They're either going to be just bowl eligible or they're not.
Yeah, Northern Iowa, you got to think though, it's an interstate game. A lot of them kids probably are Iowa recruits.
Yes,
they want to show up to school. I know that Iowa winning this game. Kill me all you want. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
No, you're making good points. I didn't even think about it at that level. A lot of these kids probably grew up playing together. So.
Yeah. So moving on from Northern Iowa, we have at home versus Iowa, which shockingly, they got the W last year. Matt Campbell was so excited on the sideline. It was the first W in years, 5-6 years. I have them taking the L. Iowa's coming for blood.
I have them taking a W because they're at home. And also, these teams are so similar, it's scary. It makes you almost want to throw up how similar these teams are. Great defenses, no offense. Bunch of white boys running around.
Take the under.
Definitely take the under. That under is probably going to be 27.
Man, what? It's 21.
No, for real. It's going to be crazy.
All right, moving on from Iowa.
1970s football, if you like it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Moving on, we have Iowa. I mean, not Iowa. We moved from Iowa to at Ohio Bobcats, where I have them catching their first W. Ace.
Yeah, I have them beating Ohio Bobcats. Power of 5. Why shouldn't you lose?
Shout out to Mac again. All right, first game of Big 12 play, we go to at home versus Oklahoma State. I have them taking an L.
For some reason, I had them taking a W right here.
Ooh,
I think it's just one of them times. Maybe Iowa State, they haven't really gotten everything together yet. You know, Iowa State, they're hungry. You know what I mean?
Is there Ames? Ames
Got
might
a
be
couple
rocking.
wins because you gotta think right now they're undefeated on my thing, so they hungry. You know what I mean? They feeling themselves. You know what I mean? But when the big boys come around, that's when it's like, oh snap. You know.
I got them 1-2, and they reeling. I Oklahoma State don't take advantage.
Nah, that's crazy. You gotta have them at 2-2. You got them at
1-3.
You got them at 1-3. Oh my God, yeah.
Stop it! I told you to start the show. Houston might not be last on my prediction.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Moving on from Oklahoma State, we have at Oklahoma where, hey, look, 4-0 cool for you. This would a buck stop for sure.
Absolutely. It's downhill from here.
Yes, sir. Sure. Matter of fact, I can't do it yet. All right, then we go from Oklahoma to TCU, another L.
Absolutely.
Then we have at Cincy, as previously mentioned, I have a W here.
I have a W here, but
can we rattle off the rest?
Who knows?
Can we rattle off the rest? We have at Baylor. I have do you have them losing the rest?
Kinda.
I'll rattle mine off. All right, and then you can go. Okay. At Baylor, I have an L. Kansas as an L. At BYU, as previously mentioned, an L. Texas, L. At Kansas State, an L. Go ahead.
So I have everything but the Kansas game.
Really?
Kansas game, I'm like, they home. It's just that defense, bro. I'm a sucker for a great defense, especially in the Big 12, because nobody plays defense. And it's like every time one of these teams get in the game where they can't do what they usually do, they just crumble, bro. Like, it's just something about them. They can't handle the pressure. If somebody's on their neck, it's over for them. And I think Iowa State's going to get one of them. They're going to get one of them teams that's looking like, oh, they could really be a contender, and they're going to knock them out just because they thought that they could just go in there and do business as usual. And I guarantee you it's going to happen at Iowa State.
Hey, look, the logic isn't flawed at all. Like, I understand your logic completely. But this is what I have to say. Jalen Daniels is coming back for another year. It's going to get
not only Jalen Daniels, but a lot of other people. But we'll get to that later.
They're actually next. So, but I'm going to briefly talk about Jalen Daniels is another year better. I just think, man, the offense can be more diverse. I think Kansas offense last year could be lacking a little bit in the passing game, but I think that could be fixed. Their run game is crazy. So, especially when you had the dual threat of Jalen Daniels and Jason Beam. So, yeah, I get you with the Iowa State thing with the defense keeping them in the game, but that offense is just so bad. Like, you got to take advantage and score something. And again, I don't know how long.
But this is the thing. We don't know how bad they're going to be, or will they be as bad as last year? Who knows? I mean, it's a lot of different things happening. I'm willing to bet that they won't be as bad as last year. I'm not saying they're going to be.
I don't know if you want to say willing to bet on the Iowa State segment, but
I mean, maybe they may average 24 points a game. You know what I'm saying? Like, just give them 3. You know what I mean? Like,
I have to see what the suspension is for Hunter Deckers. But right now I have it as an L.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that has me having Iowa State at 2-10, 1-8 in conference play, which is worse than Houston. Go ahead, Ace.
I have them at 6-6.
I'm so down on Iowa State. It's not even funny.
Yeah,
it's a lot to do with.
It's borderline disrespectful to Matt Campbell, but I mean, he is in his 8th year, and he's only 4 games over 500. So I mean.
Hey, look, I'm not going to allow you to think. Hey, Matt Campbell, I love you to death. You're one of my favorite coaches in college football, bro. I love the attitude. I love the 5-star hard work over 5-star talent. I love what you built at Iowa State. You've made Iowa State more relevant than I ever been in recent years, and I love you for it. But I think this is just a bad year for you, my boy. I'm sorry.
And another thing for sure, they can. Another thing, they can definitely not be 29% on third down. So,
I'm sorry. Hey, look, I have all the respect in the world for Matt Campbell, but no, I'm sorry. I'm not budging off this 2-10, 1-8 record. I'm not budging. Sorry.
We'll see who was right there.
Hey, Matt Campbell going to somehow see this, and I'm going to be somehow mentioned in one of his post-game interviews for sure.
He gonna put you on the board before the game. They were like, "You
Bulletin board. Yep, bulletin board.
I don't believe you."
For sure.
And again, guess what game was gonna be? That Kansas game.
Hey, look, hey, shout out to him if he win the game.
Last Leopold won't know what hit him.
I know somebody on the Kansas coaching staff. I'm gonna have to hit, bro. Like, hey, please win this game, bro. All right, I'm gonna have to take an intermission break real quick. I gotta cut my light on. I'm getting dark in here. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. It ain't gonna change too much, but yeah, I can't have it that dark. All right, so we're gonna move on from Iowa State to Kansas. Kansas had a disappointing finish to the season, finishing 6-6, 3-6 in conference play. Lost the Liberty Bowl to Arkansas, as we mentioned. Shootout of a game, one of the best bowl games. Well, bowl season was crazy last year, but one of the best bowl games of the year last year.
Triple overtime.
Huh?
Triple overtime.
Yeah. And that was the play where he threw it out the back of the end zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, man. But it was a great game. Nonetheless, it was right before the Oregon, North Carolina game. So I'm kind of glad it was over because I wanted to watch that game and it was cutting into that. But Jalen Daniels returns. Devin Neal, the starting running back, lead rusher, returns. Mason Fairchild, tight end. I think he's actually getting a lot of NFL buzz. Returns. Yeah, I love Mason Fairchild. Kobe Bryant, one of my favorite corners in the league, returns. 5-star in high school, Logan Brown transfers in from West Virginia. Wisconsin, who's supposed to be a left tackle, so he's supposed to help protect Jalen Daniels there. Kenny Logan, their leading tackler. I loved him last year at linebacker. He returns as well. They returned 17 starters, 10 on offense, 7 on defense. Ace, give me something about Kansas.
So Kansas, I mean, what can we say about Kansas? I mean, they had a huge improvement from the 2021 season when they went 2-10. You know, their first bowl game since 2008. Kansas was a fun wagon to ride early in the college football season last year. I know me and you personally were on the Kansas bandwagon for a few weeks. You know what I mean? Yeah, big pause on that. I ain't gonna lie, but
man,
yeah,
gambling.
Yeah, but still, we fooled with Kansas. I mean, we can talk all day about this offense. You got Jalen Daniels come back. He led the nation in QBRs, had over 2,000 yards, passed at 18 touchdowns. I can't remember. Well, I can't tell from my handwriting.
I think it was like 18 or 19, something like that.
I think it was 18. 400 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. They also had a pretty good backup quarterback who came in and played decent. I can't remember his name. It's like
Jason Dean.
Like that. Yeah. Pretty good guy. I mean, you know, like you said, returning Devin Neal, 1,000-yard rusher, and Daniel Heshaw, who led in rushing before his injury. So, you know, they'll have two stud running backs. They have 4 starting offensive linemen back and their top 6 wide receivers back. The offense isn't the problem. They're returning basically everybody. They're probably one of the most experienced teams in the NCAA right now. The problem is the defense. How will the defense hold up? This is a defense that allowed freaking, let me see, 438 yards per game, 35.6 points per game. You know what I mean? That's 124th nationally. I mean, they bring back 7 starters and all 4 of the D linemen, but there still has to be a drastic improvement from those guys. They cannot put up those same numbers this year. The run defense was the best it has been since 2018, but that was still last in the Big 12. How can you take the next steps if you're putting up numbers like that defensively? Over the last 3 years, when Kansas allowed fewer than 175 rushing yards, they were 8-1. When it was over 175, they're 0-25.
Yeah, and I mean, to basically sum up what you said, like if you threw away from Kobe Bryant, you probably found a lot of success. Kobe Bryant was one of the best corners. I think he was like one of the best corners in the country. Not one of the best. I say maybe top 10. So to your point, they had the 32nd total offense, 127th in total defense, 21st scoring offense, 124th in scoring defense. So, yeah, the defense didn't help the offense at all. There was a lot of shootouts there in Kansas. And to mention you, to your point, man, Kansas was a great gambler experience for sure. When you said in the chat, oh, Kansas getting 13 and a half, take it, lock.
For sure. It was a lock at the point. It was definitely a lock at one point.
For sure.
That was going crazy.
Yep. So Kansas has the 63rd overall recruiting class. We're going to jump into the schedule with the first game of the week versus Missouri State. And I think Missouri State, I think they lose, but I think it's a close game.
Close game. I'm not mad at that, but I definitely think Kansas is going to come out with the W.
I might have said that wrong. I have Kansas winning because I almost said Missouri State wins, but I have Kansas winning in a close one. Yeah. All right. And then we go from Missouri State to Illinois. As previously stated, I have that as a W for Kansas.
I have that for a W for Kansas as well. I think home field advantage is the difference in that.
All right. From Illinois, we have at Nevada, shout out to Mountain West, where I have a W for Kansas.
Yeah, Kaepernick ain't there. They getting that W for Nevada.
Oh, man, don't get me started on former Nevada quarterbacks. Carson Strong was supposed to be a first-round pick. I wonder if he's still in the league. I knew he was no first-round pick. Moving on from Nevada, we have BYU. As previously stated, I have Kansas getting the W.
I have Kansas getting the W as well.
All right, then from BYU, it all comes crumbling down. When they play at Texas, I have Texas getting a W.
Hook 'em horns, they're getting them.
Yes, sir. So moving on from Texas, we go to UCF, which I actually have Kansas winning this game.
I have Kansas winning this game as well, and I think it's also going to be because of home field advantage. I think that the year last year is going to help them, and it's going to bring a lot of excitement to the program, and I think people are going to want to back them as much as they back the Jayhawk basketball team.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I actually agree. That's my sentiments exactly. So moving on from UCF, we have at Oklahoma State, where I have them keeping it rolling, getting a W.
I have them taking the L, but it is one of those games that could go either way. I think that'll be a one-score game.
All right, moving on from Oklahoma State, I have them playing versus Oklahoma, where they take another L.
Yes, I think they take an L as well. Oklahoma sweeps them.
Yep. Well, I have 1-1, but we'll see. Going from Oklahoma to at Iowa State, as previously stated, I have Kansas taking a W.
Same. I have Kansas taking a W here.
From Iowa State to Texas Tech, where I have Kansas taking a W.
I have Kansas taking an L here. I think Texas Tech will come in there and they may handle business.
And I'm really excited for your Texas Tech segment now. From Texas Tech, we go to Kansas State, where I have Kansas taking an L.
I have Kansas taking the L as well. I think Kansas State, does what they do best.
So they lose
very decent at football.
Yep, they lose the Sunflower Bowl, or I think it's the Battle for the Sunflower. All right, so to finish it, at Cincy, as previously stated, I have Kansas taking the W.
I have Kansas taking the W as well against Cincinnati.
So that makes Kansas, in my prediction, 9-3, 6-3 in conference play, making them bowl eligible. Ace, give me your record.
I have Kansas at about 7-5, making them bowl eligible, and hopefully winning their bowl, or at least having an exciting game like they did last year.
Hey, look, I hope they win, depending on who they play.
Right.
I just can't say, oh, hope Kansas win, and then they play like South Carolina. Nah, it's team.
Win within reason. I'm sure that's all.
All right, from Kansas, we go to Kansas State. Kansas State, your reigning Big 12 champion, like I said earlier, 10-3 last year, 7-2 in conference play. They did, however, lose the Sugar Bowl against Bama badly, by the way. They lost Deuce Vaughn, one of my favorite running backs in the country, to the NFL. Will Howard returns, which was one of the surprises to me last year at quarterback. Trayshawn Ward transfers in from Florida State, 628 yards, 7 touchdowns. So there you got an ACC guy who has some experience. That's a nice little transfer there. Lost Malik Knowles to the NFL. Lost Julius Brents, one of my favorite corners in the country last year, to the NFL. Lost Felix Anadike Uzoma to the NFL. I first found out about him. He had 4 sacks, against Carson Strong and Nevada.
Yeah,
also
he was
cost me money doing that. You said what, Ace?
I said, yeah, he was an elite pass rusher for sure.
Yeah, he cost me money doing that, but I digress. They returned 12 starters, 7 on offense, 5 on defense. 64th total defense last year, 64th passing defense last year, 68th rushing defense last year, 93rd passing offense, 41st in total offense. Now, hold on. Before I get into that, you might be saying, Carl, Will Howard was surprised. How are they the 93rd passing offense? That's all because of Adrian Martinez and his running They barely did any passing with Adrian Martinez starting at quarterback. Once they made the switch, that's when they started more passing.
Yeah.
But before that, it was all run with Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn.
It was like Colin Klein came back.
Yeah, for sure. Barely doing any passing with Martinez. All right, and then they had the 41st. They were 41st total offense, 15th in rushing offense. Like I said, run with Martinez and Deuce Vaughn. Ace, give me something about Kansas State.
Well, about Kansas State, like you said, they got Will Howard coming back, and he's a pretty big quarterback. I mean, the guy's about 6'5", over 240 pounds. He threw for over 1,600 yards last season and 15 touchdowns in only 7 games. So we should only expect him to improve on those numbers with more games under his belt. One thing that sticks out about their offense for me is the offensive line. I think they have one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12, and they have depth. You know, that's something that'll be super important in this conference. The wide receiver core, you know, they'll have a lot to prove. They only have one proven starter that's coming back in Phillip Brooks, who's like a short and shifty guy. I think he's about 5'7" or so. They do have the Florida State transfer Trayshawn Ward coming back, and he rushed for about 1,100 yards and 6.5 yards per carry. You know, he may not replace Deuce Vaughn, but he should be able to be a key part of their running back rotation.
Hold on, Ace. Shout out to Joe Jordan with the super chat, $20. Says shout out to CTC, the best college sports show in the world. Shout out to Carl and Asa with the elite analysis. Biggest super chat. I'm competitive too. So it sounds like a lot of y'all got to step y'all game up according to Joe, who's gonna beat the 20. But look, I appreciate any and everything. Y'all, for sure. Y'all can spend y'all money on anything, and the fact that you want to spend your money here is a blessing. I appreciate any and all things being spent. Look, you don't have to beat it if you don't want to. You can send $1. I'm cool with it, bro. I really am. I'm appreciative of it all. But shout out Joe, man.
Yeah, big shout out to Joe. You know what I mean?
And you know what I'm saying? So with that being said, Ace, continue.
Yeah, they're also returning one of the best linebackers in the country. I mean, not in the country. Well, maybe in the country, but definitely in the conference. Daniel Green. The secondary only returns one starter, though, in Kobe Savage. So, who is considered one of the best safeties in the conference. So, we'll see how that translates. I think this team will be a lot like how they were last year, not doing anything necessarily great, but they do everything good enough and they're disciplined. And, you know, who knows what games they could take if they cut down on the turnovers and, you know, penalties and things like that. Oh, speaking of turnovers, I got this little fact right here. 0-3 in games with multiple turnovers, 10-1 in games with one or less turnovers. So, I mean, that pretty much goes for any team, but it should still show you guys that this team, when they're doing right, they know what to do and how to bring it home.
No, that was probably Adrian Martinez as well. I don't want to seem like I'm like killing the kid. I actually like Adrian Martinez for college reasons, but man, he kind of held Kansas State back.
Yeah.
Kansas State had the 39th overall recruiting class. I will jump into the schedule. The first game is against Southeastern Missouri State. I have that as a W. Get back.
I have that as a W as well.
All right, moving on to Troy, which Troy had one of the better defenses in the Sun Belt. Troy actually played. Man, Troy might have had one of the better defenses in the country, to be honest.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did. And guess where the DC? And that's where the DC is now.
Hey, look, Troy shut down that high-power UTSA offense in that bowl game and got the W. But Carlton Martial isn't there anymore. So for that, give me the W against Troy.
Yeah, I think they're getting the W against Troy. I mean, they're at home. It's the defending Big 12 champs. They should go in there and, you know, show some grit and get a W.
All right, moving on. They played at Mizzou, SEC. Mizzou is actually crazy. At Mizzou played Georgia the best last year. They actually almost won that game.
Mizzou is actually a very sneaky team to play against, and I think they're definitely going to take an L against them.
I actually have this as a W against Mizzou because Mizzou is just crazy like that, but I think it's going to be a really good game.
I don't know. I think early in the year, Mizzou may try to, like, you know, I don't know. I think that could be a statement game for them.
Yeah, I have as a W. It's a lot of unknowns with Mizzou, and I'll get into that next episode, a couple episodes down. But it's a lot of question marks with Mizzou. Moving
Sorry,
on, we have first game of Big 12 play versus UCF. I'm like Ace got like a little light in this situation as well as me. But while I wait for Ace, man, light those comments up. We love to see the comments. Ask questions about
Yeah, I had to cut the light on. I was looking too dark myself.
Cool. My boy's back. So, like I said, we got Kansas State versus UCF. First game for Kansas State in Big 12 play. I have a W.
Yeah, I had W as well against UCF.
All right, then from UCF we go to Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State, where I have a W.
I have an L against Oklahoma State.
Oh, okay. I don't know, man. I'm not high on Oklahoma. I'm not gonna say I'm not high because I'm not low on them either. But I got to see something from Oklahoma State because I think they played a close game with Central Michigan last year. And
I'm just trying to keep in account that this conference is just so unpredictable, you know.
That's true, and I respect that. And the game wasn't close.
Everybody can beat anybody at a given notice.
Yeah, and the game wasn't close versus Central Michigan. I want to clear that up. It did get kind of close, I think, in the late second quarter, but I think Oklahoma State started to pull away late in the game. But it's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of question marks with this division. In this conference. Moving on, we have at Texas Tech, where I have a W.
I had them taking the L against Texas Tech as well.
Yeah, bro. We might have to do Texas Tech next. This is crazy. From Texas Tech, we go to TCU, where I have a hard-fought W in the Big 12 championship rematch. It's at
yes, I have a hard-fought W as well, but asterisks on it.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Manhattan will be rocking. Moving on from TCU, we stay at home versus Houston, where I have a W.
Yes, I have them taking a W against Houston as well.
All right, moving on from Houston, we go to at Texas, where I have them taking their first loss of the season.
I have them taking the L as well against Texas.
All right, moving on from Texas, we go to at home versus Baylor, where I have a W.
I have them taking a W against Baylor as well.
All right, from Baylor, we have at Kansas, as previously stated, I have a W.
I have them taking a W as well as Kansas.
And Senior Day versus Iowa State, as previously stated, I have a W.
Yeah, the seniors go out with a bang. It's a W.
All right, so that puts me at Kansas State at 11-1, 8-1 in conference play. Obviously, bowl eligible, maybe eligible for the Big 12 championship. Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, I have Kansas State at 8-4, 9-3. I think they'll be a good team, but I don't think they have enough to defend their title.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. Like you said, a couple games can go either way, but the fact that they don't play Oklahoma, that's a plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
speaking of
funny enough, Oklahoma. Oklahoma 6-6 last year, 3-6 in conference play. They lost the Cheez It Bowl to Florida State. Dylan Gabriel returns. Nice dual threat quarterback from transferred from UCF 2 years ago. They lose their leading rusher, Eric Gray, to the NFL. Lose their leading receiver, Marvin Mims, to the NFL. Jalil Farouk, shout out PG County. I won't shout out your high school for rivalry reasons. Returns to Oklahoma. Danny Stotsman, I believe their leading tackler, returns at linebacker. They do have a transfer from Michigan. And I'm going to go on a little – he killed us. What was that, 2 years ago when they almost beat us, but K9 had 5 touchdowns? Andrew Anthony, transfer receiver from wide receiver from Michigan. They had maybe a $150 to 200 yards against us. They still lost because it's Michigan. So, but yeah, he's from East Lansing.
Throw that part in there.
he's from East Lansing. They returned 12 starters, 5 on offense, 7 on defense. Ace, give me something about Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, I mean, the things you can say about them are the things you usually say about them. They had a great recruiting class. They had a pretty good transfer portal experience this year, so that should have an instant impact. And ironically, they do have one of the easiest schedules in the Big 12 this year, in my opinion. That being said, the offense has probably lost all their proven playmakers.
Sure. Well,
between
Jalil Farouk is a really good.
I mean, yeah, Farouk is there, but they still need other people to step up and be playmakers. You still have Dylan Gabriel, sure. But, I mean, who's the running back? You know what I mean?
That's a very good question.
They have decent young running backs. I mean, and they do have a pretty good offensive line. It should create opportunities for them, but how many? Who knows? The real big thing about them is this defense, and it lacks depth at basically all levels, you know.
Which is crazy because Brett
Yeah,
Venables is a defensive head coach.
exactly. On top of giving up 30 points per game last season, the defense ranked 122nd in the nation in total defense and allowed about 6
I
yards
have
per.
that.
Unacceptable as an Oklahoma team. Now, the good things about their defense is they returned the Big 12's leading tackler in Danny Stutzman, something like that.
Stossman.
Yeah, and they also have a stud freshman All-American transfer from Indiana, Deshaun McCullough. So they should combine to make a pretty good linebacker core. Now, if their pass rush can be a little faster and get to the quarterback, that should help their secondary. And who knows from there, you know. But I mean, I do think Oklahoma can turn it around, but that thought is kind of predicated on who I know Oklahoma to be. You know what I mean? They were only 5 and 1-score games last year, so that should help them. Like, just imagine if they won those 5 games last year, they would be freaking
11-1. Oh,
exactly.
yeah, 11-1.
So, or 2, 11. Because
they lost the bowl game.
FSU, but even still, you know, like that's a drastic change.
Mm-hmm.
If they can capitalize on those 1-score games, like I was saying earlier, which are pivotal in this conference, who knows what they could be? They could either be at the top of the conference or middle of the pack, but I don't see them being at the bottom again.
Yup, and to your point, they had the 6th overall recruiting class. I have some stats right here. They were the 10th rushing offense, but Eric Gray's gone. Like you said, 122nd in total defense, which is bad. Brett Venables, you're a defensive head coach. You come from that Clemson tree. You got to fix that. 13th in total offense, 119th in passing defense. Like you said, pass rush has to be better. DBs have to be better. If the pass rush is better, it may help the DBs. But, yeah, it's Big 12 football, ladies and gentlemen. Like, we told you what it is.
Around these parts.
We told you what it is. All right, we're going to hop into the schedule. First game against the Red Wolves of Arkansas State, I have a W.
I have a W as well.
All right, second game versus SMU. SMU loses Tanner Mordecai, as I said in the Big Ten episode. So for that, I have them taking a W.
Yes, sir. Oklahoma Sooners W.
Yeah, SMU also doesn't play defense. So shoot, SMU, if you want to join the Big 12, hey, right at home. Then we go at Tulsa. At Tulsa, I have a W.
I have a W as well. I have this Sooner team starting out hot.
Yes, sir. And like you said, at Cincy, I have another W, making them 4-0.
Likewise, 4-0.
All right. Iowa State, as previously mentioned, I have a W.
I have a W as well. I don't think Iowa has enough for them. Then
we go to the Red River rivalry at home versus Texas, where I still have them taking the L.
I don't think it's at home.
Well, it was a neutral site.
Yeah, neutral site game.
Yeah, my bad.
I think they definitely take an L. I don't think it's 49-0 this year, but
that was crazy.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
That was crazy. And all right, going from Texas, we have UCF. And I actually wrote a W for this at first, but I don't know, man. Gus Malzahn, offensive-minded head coach, versus this bad defense. I mean, Brett Venables is a defensive head coach, so you have to see if it's going to stay bad. But I think Gus is going to game plan and have UCF offense good enough. Plus, he goes against Dylan Gabriel. He knows Dylan Gabriel. I have an L for this.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a shootout, but I do have this as a W for the Sooners.
All right, so we go from UCF to at Kansas, where previously stated I have this as a W.
I have this as a W, but, the way you felt about the game last week, I felt about this game this week.
All right, so from Kansas, we have at Oklahoma State, another rivalry game, which this may be the last year we see it. Who knows? I have a W.
I have a W as well.
All right, moving on from Oklahoma State, we go to West Virginia at home, where I have a W.
I have a W as well against West Virginia.
All right, from West Virginia, we go to at BYU, where I have Oklahoma taking a W.
I actually have Oklahoma taking the L right here. I think this is just one of those situations where, everybody's going to be giving Oklahoma and Texas their best shot because this is the last chance that they're going to get to play them consistently. So I think, teams are going to come out with all cylinders clicking and maybe they'll get them.
I mean, to help your case a little bit more, this is a great look ahead spot because they finished the season versus TCU. So that's valid. But moving on to TCU, I thought about this game for a minute. But ultimately, I gave Oklahoma the W at home senior day. I gave it to Oklahoma.
Same. I gave it to Oklahoma. I don't think TCU is going to win those close games that they did last year, but we can talk about that later.
Yep. So I have Oklahoma actually turning it around, finishing 10-2, 7-2 in conference play. May or may not make the Big 12 championship. Yet to be determined.
Yeah, I have Oklahoma at 8-2 or 7-3, somewhere around there.
All right. So moving on, we go from Oklahoma to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State 7-5 last year, 4-5 in conference play. Lost the Guaranteed Rate Bowl again to Wisconsin. Spencer Sanders now transfers to Ole Miss. Good luck there for you, buddy. You are going to be in a tough competition at Ole Miss. Brendan Presley returns. Elijah Collins, my guy, Sparty on, rooting for you, big dog. Transfer running back from Michigan State. Dejon Stribling transfers from Washington State. They lost Jason Taylor the second, not Jason Taylor, the Dolphins kid, but Jason Taylor Jr. to the NFL. He played safety. I think he had like 99 tackles. Alan Bowman transfers in from Michigan. They had the 106th passing defense, 115th total defense, 89th scoring defense, 49th scoring offense. I think this is 52nd. Bad. Right, 52nd in total offense. Ace, give me something about Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. I do know that the offense is only returning 2 of their starters, so maybe a tough time trying to figure out the offense and get those guys clicking. They've also lost their top 2 rushers from last year. However, on defense, they returned Colin Oliver, who's one of the best DNs in the nation. He had about 16 and a half sacks and 23 tackles for loss in just 2 seasons. And he's actually moving to linebacker because the team is going to, the new defensive coordinator, they're moving to a 3-3-5, which is pretty common to see in the Big 12, actually.
Yeah, that's smart.
And he's going to be replacing their star linebacker from last year, Mason Cobb, who's actually transferring to USC. So, I'm not too sure about Oklahoma State. I think they have the talent to compete with just about anybody there. But I think, their secondary is thin. They may return 3 of their top receivers, but, they have Alan Bowman, who still needs to prove himself coming from Michigan. Mike Gundy hasn't had any losing seasons yet, but who knows about this year?
Yep, and to your point, I mean, if we're going to give Baylor shouts out for the 2021 season where they won the Big 12, shout out to Oklahoma State, who were actually the runner-ups in the Big 12, who lost to Baylor in that championship game. So
a yard away.
Yeah, man, look, that game came down to the wire for sure. And as much as I'm not a fan of Spencer Sanders, he actually played really well that game. Chuba Hubbard played really well that game. So shout out Oklahoma State for that 2 years ago. All right, so Oklahoma State moves on to the 44th overall recruiting class. We're going to jump into the schedule. They play Central Arkansas first game. Great field, but they won't see it because they'll be at Oklahoma State. And I have Oklahoma State taking the W.
I have Oklahoma State taking the W as well.
All right, moving on from Central Arkansas to, Big 12 opponent next year at Arizona State. I have them taking the W.
I have them taking a W as well in the future conference matchup.
Yes, sir. Moving on to South Alabama, go Jags, where they take a W.
They take a W as well, starting off strong, 3-0.
Yes, sir. Then at Iowa State, as previously mentioned, I have this as a W.
I actually have this as an L for them. I think this is going to be one of those games where the offense sputters. They're going to be away against a tougher team than Arizona State, and it may be a little shock for the younger players on the team.
Yeah, that defense for sure can make that game up. So for sure, I'm not mad at that logic. Then we move on to Kansas State, where I have them taking an L, first L of the season.
I actually had them taking a W here.
Against Kansas State.
Yeah, bye week, coming off a bad loss. You got, and you're home. You got something to prove. Is that a Friday game as well? Friday Night Lights.
I'm not rolling. Give me Kansas State. I'm not rolling. All right, then we move from Kansas State to Kansas, back-to-back Kansas.
Oh, actually, no, wait. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, no, never. Yeah, I have them taking a W against Kansas State.
All right, going on to Kansas, where I have them taking another L at home.
Yeah, I have them taking an L here.
All right, moving on from Kansas, we go to at West Virginia, where I have them taking an L.
I have them taking a W here against West Virginia.
Yeah, it's a toss-up for sure. I definitely was thinking about this one, but I gave it to West Virginia ultimately, and Morgantown reeling for a W. Well, I kind of give you an insight on West Virginia, but yeah, them taking a W there. Moving on to Cincy, I have them, as previously stated, taking a W.
Yeah, I have them taking a W as well.
Then on to Oklahoma, where I have them taking an L.
I have them taking the L at Oklahoma.
All right, moving on to at UCF, where I have them taking an L.
I have them taking the L, but could go either way.
All right, moving on from me to at Houston, where I have them catching a W.
Yes, a W at Houston for sure.
And Senior Day, unfortunately, I have them taking an L, as previously stated, to BYU, because BYU will be looking to become bowl eligible.
Yes, the Mormons ruined it for them.
All right, so that has Oklahoma State at 6-6, 3-6 in conference play, taking a game step back. Making them bowl eligible still, however. Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, I had them about 6-6 as well.
All right. So we're going to move on from Oklahoma State to TCU, and shout out TCU for making the playoffs last year. TCU 12-1, 9-0 in conference play. Again, as previously stated, lost the Big 12 championship to Kansas State, and they lost the Natty badly to Georgia, but they beat Michigan, so they won my national championship. They beat Michigan, and Michigan ain't go to the national championship game. So hey, you good in my book, TCU. They lose Max Dugan to the draft. They lose Kendre Miller to the draft. They lose Quentin Johnston to the draft. Chance Nolan transfers in from Oregon State. Nice little quarterback there. Trey Sanders, who I think is a dog running back from Alabama, transfers in. So I think they did a nice job replacing a running back and a pretty decent job replacing the quarterback there. John Paul Richardson, decent little receiver from Oklahoma State, transfers in. Just some little nuggets about TCU. They had a 27th total offense, 95th total defense, tied 90th scoring defense, 9th in scoring offense, so very on par for Big 12. They returned 11 starters, 3 on offense, 8 on defense. Oh, and I forgot to mention, they lost the reigning Jim Thorpe Award winner, Eccles Tomlinson. What was it?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Eccles Lupa Tomlinson. They lost him to the draft. So, Age, give me something about the TCU as I look up.
Yeah, like you said, this team has lost a lot. They lost their quarterback, top 2 running backs, top 3 wide receivers, 2 all Big Ten offensive linemen, and their OC, the Clemson. And basically all of their best players at every level of their defense. And a defense that allowed 28 or more points in 60% of their games last year. However, one thing that I do think that people forget about last year, that TCU team, Max Duggan was actually the backup.
Please don't remind me that.
Chandler Morris started the year, and he was doing pretty well before he got injured. So
we disagree on that, Ace. That boy did not look that good against Colorado to me at all.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I can't really remember, but that's neither here nor there. Max Duggan was still the backup. I mean, he was the backup for what I would assume is the reason. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the thing is, I don't really think that they'll have the same kind of year they had last year. Granted, they are returning 11 starters, 8 on defense, but I mean, like I said, that defense still wasn't that great. Secondary will need some help. They're gonna need somebody to step up and be a consistent pass rusher. I mean, they may be better with more experience, but that remains to be seen, and they still have a lot to improve on their offense, especially with losing their OC. Can they bounce back and be as an explosive team as they were? Who knows?
It was Travius Hodges Tomlinson. Sorry, I butchered his name completely. But a little bit about that Chandler Morris thing made me so mad he was announced to start. Like, I thought for sure Max Duggan deserved it. And then they went a close one with Colorado because he played so bad. Then Max Duggan came in and took over and actually won the game. And then he, from there, was named the starter and he never looked back. Which I thought that he should have been a starter from the jump. Then they was trying to give the coach credit, like, oh, at least they went to him and he took the job over. I'm like, no, this shouldn't have been a thing in the first place. Like, why are we giving him credit when Max Duggan should have clearly been the starter from the jump? It really pissed me off. Like, they were really trying to give the coach credit for this. But nonetheless, they still had a great season. No, Yeah. Ty, yeah. Chandler Morris definitely started the Colorado game. After the Colorado game, it was Max Dugan from then on, but Chandler Morris definitely started that Colorado
Hey,
game.
believe me, I was a Dugan guy, man. You know, so trust me, I feel you.
Yeah, so, but just had to go on that little rant real quick. But from there, we go, they had the 26 overall recruiting class. They have the rematch with Colorado, but this time Prime is the head coach, but I still have TCU getting a W.
Yeah, I still had them getting a W.
All right, then we go to Nichols State, where I have them getting a W.
Yeah, they should get an easy W here.
All right, from Nichols, we go to at Houston, where Houston gets the W. I mean,
Yeah,
not Houston, TCU gets the W. My fault.
Yeah. TCU gets a W here.
All right, then we have another rematch of a banger of a shootout last year with SMU, but TCU gets another W.
Yeah, SMU takes the L here. TCU, good W.
All right, from SMU to West Virginia, where I have them getting a W.
Yeah, W against West Virginia. They don't really have much this year.
Yep, from West Virginia to at Iowa State, as previously mentioned, I have TCU getting a W.
I have them getting a W against Iowa State as well.
All right, 6-0 here from to BYU, where I have them getting a W at home.
Yeah, starting the season strong. Another W against BYU.
All right, from BYU at Kansas State, as previously mentioned, I have this as an L, making them 7-1.
Yes, sir. 7-1 as well.
I'm interested to see what you got here. At Texas Tech, I have a W. What do you have?
Yeah, 7-2, baby.
Oh man, hey, come on, man. Hey, Texas Tech goes to the Big 12 championship for this guy, man.
Bro, I think Texas Tech is going to be the TCU this year.
Stop the cap.
All right, from Texas Tech, we're gonna get more into that. We're gonna definitely get more into that.
Ain't no cap.
From Texas Tech to Texas, I have an L here.
Yeah, I got an L for sure.
All right, from Texas to Baylor, I have a W here.
W for sure.
And to end the season at Oklahoma, I actually have an L here, as previously stated.
I have a W here.
All right, so for me, I have TCU finishing 9-3, 6-3 in conference play, making them bowl eligible. Ace, what do you got?
Same, I had them at about 9-3.
All right, so moving on from TCU to Texas, where Texas finished 8-4, 6-3, but it was a lot to be seen. Texas for sure has a lot of buzz coming into the season. They do lose Bijan Robinson, who some consider the best back in the league. Some people consider Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, look, bro, 1A, 1B to me. I don't care. I'm not going to argue either way.
Depends on what you like.
Yep, they lost the Alamo Bowl to Washington. Now Big Ten Washington after next year, but I digress. Quinn Ewers returns for I think redshirt junior year. Xavier Worthy returns at wide receiver. Like I said, they lose Bijan Johnson to the draft. They lose Roschon Johnson, who's actually his backup, who could have probably started at other colleges. They lost him to the draft. Jalen Ford returns. Jalen Catalon transfers safety from Arkansas. 15 returning starters, 9 from the offense, 6 from the defense. Now, I have to say, Steve Sarkisian, you're going to have to step this up. You're an offensive-minded head coach. You got Quinn Ewers for another year. Yeah, you're going to have to show improve this year. 8-4 is pretty good, but Texas, they want natties. They want higher bowl games. They want 10 wins. So 8-4 is cool, but not at Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, we can mention that Arch Manning, the 5-star freshman, who probably won't see the field this year. He is now at Texas, but he probably won't see the field. Ace, give me something about Texas.
Speaking of 5 stars, it may be hard to replace Bijan Robinson, but they do have another 5-star recruit coming in CJ Baxter. So hopefully he can add to the rotation with the 2 other running backs that they have on the roster that have in-game experience. Like you said about Steve Sarkisian, yeah, it is his time to step up this year. It's his 3rd year. He's just 1 game over 500 in his time there. So he's definitely going to have to show and prove. As well as Quinn Ewers, you know what I mean? Quinn Ewers started off hot. He looked great in that Alabama game last year.
Phenomenal.
But when he came back from an injury, he just looked like he was making a lot of mental mistakes, and he just wasn't as sharp as he was when we first saw him. Good thing, though, Texas probably has the best offensive line in the Big 12, in my opinion. Like you said, they have All-American Xavier Worthy coming back. They have a stud tight end in Jatavian Sanders. I think the main difference, or the Yeah, the difference in this team is going to have to be the defense. You know what I mean? The defense may not be as talented as the offense, but they do a lot of things great when they're cooking. Look at the Alabama game, for instance. They finished second in the Big 12 in total and scoring defense. And for the first time since 2014, they allowed less than 5 yards per play. I mean, that's got to be trending in the right direction, you know? They got linebacker Jalen Ford, who's coming back, one of the best defenders in the Big 12, maybe the nation. He had 119 tackles and 4 interceptions. But their secondary, they're going to have to step up and make some plays for sure. Like I said, Jalen Ford had 4 interceptions, but their defensive backs as a whole last year only had 4. You
Yeah.
know, so that can't continue. But the D line did lead the nation in quarterback pressures last year, so they have the right ingredients to be an elite team. That defense cut their points per game down from 31 in 2021 to 21 last year. A 10-point swing. You can't even beat that.
Yeah, Ty, I think Ewers is pretty good. I think Ewers has the ability to be elite. I wouldn't say he's not him. I mean, he did leave early. He left. He foregone his senior season after the season was over to go into Ohio State. Was behind Justin Fields. Decided to transfer to Texas. So I think Ewers now has a full year to work with. I get last year, but they were between him and Hudson Card. Now it's clearly Quinn Ewers. So um, I think he's going to do well. They had the
Yeah.
25th scoring offense, 28th scoring defense, 56th passing offense, 54th in total defense, 35th in total offense. So they were pretty balanced, Texas. The game I like to point out, though, however, was the TCU game where TCU just flat out shut down Bijan and Quinn Ewers just looked out of whack. Texas needs to really replay that game and tell him look, you're not gonna have Bijan. We got to get your mental. Like you said, he didn't look sharp. He was missing passes. We have to grow from this game. We have to learn from this game, grow from it, move on.
I think it's a lot more than just Quinn Ewers. I think the team as a whole, there were certain games where it looked like they just weren't in it. You know what I mean? Like, I got this funny stat. First 3 quarters, they outscored their opponents by 179 points, but they get outscored by 12 points in fourth quarter and overtime. So
yes, sir.
You gotta clean the things like that up.
Yes, sir. So we move on. They had the 3rd overall recruiting class go to the schedule where the first game is against Rice, where I have the W.
Yeah, I have them getting a W against Rice as well.
Moving on to at Alabama. I gave Texas the L, but I definitely thought about this game because I have to really look. Bama loses a lot as well, but it's Bama, so they reload. But I gave Texas the L.
Same. I actually gave Texas the L too, but it wasn't easy to give them that.
Yeah. Moving on from Bama to Wyoming. I'm not shouting out that quarterback, so don't even think about it. Where I give Texas the W.
Yeah, I give Texas the W there.
Moving on from Wyoming to Baylor, where I give Texas the W.
I give Texas the W as well.
All right. As previously stated, against Kansas, I give Texas the W.
Yeah, again, the W against Kansas. Sorry, Jalen Daniels.
Again, as previously stated, I give them the W against Oklahoma.
Absolutely. W against Oklahoma.
Matter of fact, I can just do this. I have Texas winning against Houston, BYU, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech.
I agree everywhere. However, I think if they were to lose one in a random ass trap game, Houston. I think Houston, if they're going to get up for anybody, it's probably their last time to play Texas. If I'm not mistaken, they either won or it was a really close game last time they played, or maybe the time before that. But this is a rivalry game for Houston. You know what I mean? So Houston to Austin, that's right there.
I ain't rolling.
I think they may come out and at least make it competitive for sure.
I ain't rolling.
Do I think they win? Do I think Houston wins? Not really, but I do think that they have a chance.
The only trap game I have is maybe I'm not gonna say at TCU because I think Quinn Ewers is gonna be up for that game, especially how last year went. The only trap game I have really is Kansas State, but I have them winning the game. But if I had to pick a trap game,
but I don't even think that's a trap game. You know what I mean? Like, I think Houston is the only one that can really be a trap game.
The reason why I say that is because
coming off a bye, you know what I mean? Maybe overlooking you got BYU at home coming up next week. Not saying that BYU is a big game for Texas necessarily, But it's just like, why would they? I mean, granted, they do have the Bible. Why would they look at Houston like they're a problem? You know?
I feel the logic, and I honestly don't have a trap game on the schedule at all. But if I had to pick one, I would go with Kansas State because they could be looking ahead. TCU, like I said, revenge on their mind. Like I can't
Yeah,
wait to
for
go to this
sure.
game.
And
Kansas
going
State,
into TCU, I mean, I get it.
yeah, Kansas State is actually going to be really good. I forgot what I had them at. I think I had them at 9-3 on mine, or actually, I think I might have had them at 11-1 because of the schedule. Let me go back and look. Yeah, I had them at 11-1, so I think they're going to be one of the top teams in the Big 12. So if I were to pick a trap game, that would be it. But like I said, I have Texas going 11-1, 9-0 in conference play, putting them at Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, I have Texas at about I have them number 1 in the conference at about 10-2.
All right, moving on from Texas, we go to the segment I could not wait to get to now. All of a sudden, Texas Tech, 7-5, 5-4 in conference play last year. Won the Texas Bowl versus Ole Miss. Would like to note that Tyler Shuck did play, not Donovan Smith. Tyler Shuck returns the transfer from Oregon a couple years ago. Donovan Smith, like I said, transfers out to Houston. Taj Brooks, I believe they're leading rusher, returns. I can't remember. I know he returns, but I can't remember if he's leading rusher, him or Sharajic Thompson. But Sharajic Thompson has gone to the NFL. They lost Krishan Merriweather, one of my favorite linebackers in the country last year. For some reason, wherever the ball was, Krishan Merriweather was. I was looking hard to see if he was in the draft, but I don't think he got. Well, I know he didn't get drafted, but I don't think he's on the NFL roster. So whatever you're doing, Krishan Merriweather, good luck to you. I wish to watch you play football again. I think he's a very electric linebacker. Like I said, has a nose for the football. 14 starters return, 8 on offense, 6 on defense. They were 22nd in total offense, 108th in total defense, 91st in rushing defense, 103rd in passing defense, 27th in scoring offense. So, again, right on par for Big 12. Ace, give me something about Texas Tech.
I think Texas Tech is an extremely fun team to watch. I think they're probably one of the most exciting teams in the Big 12, in my opinion. They're like, granted, they may not have the big name coach Joey McGuire, who's only going into his second year. They may not have like the greatest quarterback in Tyler Shug, who's pretty injury prone, if I'm not mistaken. He's only played in 22 games in 4 seasons. However, for some reason, I just have a feeling about this team. You know what I mean? I just think they're just one of those teams that can probably capitalize on the momentum from last year and be one of those teams who can win a lot of those close games that need to happen in order to be successful in this conference. Granted, the offensive line allowed 41 sacks last year. Unforgivable. Absolutely. Can't understate that anymore. But I do think that they will improve through experience and whoever they got through the transfer portal. I can't really remember it off the top of my head right now. They also have a new OC who was with Western Kentucky University and Bailey Zapp when they put up those crazy numbers. You know what I mean?
Shout out Western Kentucky.
Man, and on top of already having one of the most talented wide receiver corps in the conference and veterans at that, you know what I mean? So I think the offense is going to just be out of this world, if anything. The defense, they have a good pass rush. They remind me a lot of TCU, you know what I mean, as far as like being bend don't break. It may not be the best between against the more talented teams in other conferences, or maybe even in this conference when you're talking about Texas and maybe Oklahoma or other teams like that. But they do return 6 starters, and they led the Big 12 in sacks, and they were the 9th best in red zone defense in the FBS. You know what I mean? So they do things pretty well. Granted, statistically, they may not be the greatest defense, but I think they're trending in the right direction.
All right, so you're high on Texas Tech. I'm so low on Texas Tech. It's not even funny. But like you said, they are a very good bend no break. And one more thing. Again, shout out Derek Parrish. They gave him 41 sacks. My boy had 4 in one game. So shout out, bro. So Texas Tech bolsters the 36 overall recruiting class. Is pretty good. Schedule first game of the season at Wyoming. I have a W here.
I have a W as well. I have them starting out hot.
Ooh, I wouldn't say hot because then we go to Oregon where I have them taking an L.
Like I said, I got them starting out hot.
No, hold on, bro. You're not saying they're going
They're
to be
taking a
Oregon.
W at home against Oregon. Oregon is
Please,
some scrubs.
man.
We don't care about no Pac-12 softball. We coming out there. We're going to light it up the scoreboard. We're going to smack them around. I'm saying we like I'm a Texas Tech fan. But they're going to win.
I get you.
And you know what else I love about Texas Tech? They go for it on fourth down. They don't care.
Hey, that's a fact. That's a fact.
63% on the year. 33 out of 52. How can you be mad at that, bro? They are a great team to watch. I implore anybody who's watching this, watch Texas Tech this year. You will not regret it.
That's true. I agree with that. But you know who else goes for it on fourth down? Bo Nix in Oregon. And for that reason, give me Oregon. You're crazy. Bo Nix is going to light Texas Tech up. Me and you are here on Bo Nix. We still have to see more of Bo Nix. I'm with you on that.
I'm not convinced, brother.
Yeah, we both have to see more of Bo Nix. But I can't for the life of me call myself fair and not give Bo Nix credit for the season that Oregon had last year. And he's coming back. And I believe he's coming back with basically the same offense.
Pretty much, for the most part.
Yeah, so give me Oregon. I'm
sorry, not mad at it, but I don't know, man.
All right, from Oregon, we go to Tarleton, where I think it's Tarleton State, where I have Texas Tech taking a W.
Yes, I have Texas Tech taking the W as well.
And I know we're about to disagree here. From Tarleton State, I have at West Virginia, where I have Texas Tech taking an L. I already knew we were disagreeing.
Big dubs from the West V.
From West Virginia to Houston, where I have them catching a W in a rematch game.
I have them catching a W as well against Houston.
All right, from Houston to at Baylor, where I have them previously stated taking an L.
I have them taking an L against Baylor.
From Baylor, I can do this, and then you can do what you gotta do. I have them losing the rest of the season, losing versus Kansas State, losing at BYU, losing against TCU, losing at Kansas, losing at home against UCF, and losing against Texas at home. At Texas, going 3-9, 1-8 in conference play.
I love Texas Tech at home this year. Whoever's walking in there, they're going to have to prove it. They're going to have to really earn it. I think it's going to be hard-fought games throughout here, a lot of one-score games. I have them winning against Kansas State at home. I had them losing against BYU the next week. Having a bye, TCU coming in there on a Thursday. I think they get them as well. I have them going into Jayhawks, winning, beating UCF, and losing to Texas at the end of the year. I think this is the surprise team of the Big 12. I'm standing on it with everything I have. I think they win. I think they ended the season about 8-4, maybe 9-3 if they're lucky.
All right, so hey, look,
get some help.
This is a hot take from Ace. So
super hot take.
I love it. I'm on the opposite end of it for sure, but I love it.
Hey, if anything, I'm gonna have some hot takes. Don't bring me on here if you don't like hot takes.
We love it.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Get crazy for this one, but hey, this is what you're gonna get on CTC.
Hey, get the fans, my boy. Get the AC.
All right, so from Texas Tech,
my bankroll will either thank me or it's gonna hate me.
Hey, look, if they become a wagon, put the backpack on.
Hey, just remember this if they do.
All right, moving on from Texas Tech to UCF. UCF 9-4, 6-2 in the American Conference last year. UCF loses the Military Bowl to Duke. Shout out Riley Leonard again. UCF had John Rice Plumlee returning, which he's a runner for sure. He led UCF in passing and rushing. So hey, look, if it's one thing Gus Malzahn's going to do, he's going to recruit a running quarterback. That's for sure. So moving on, they lost Isaiah Bowser, who was more so like the red zone, hand the ball off, plowed to get a touchdown. Ryan O'Keefe transfers to Boston College, as previously mentioned in our ACC preview. Johnny Richardson, I think he's more so like a running back, wide receiver, like gadget guy. I think you can put them both. He returns. Javon Baker returned 12 starters, 6 on offense, 6 on defense. They had 18 transfers, so that's a lot. Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, it's no mistake that this team wants to run the ball. You know what I mean? The ground game is definitely their strength. Like you said, they have they're 5-0 when they average 5.5 yards per carry or more. 7-0 when rushing over 210 yards. 0-4 when they don't get 160 yards rushing. And over the past 2 years, they've been 17-2 when over 160 yards rushing, 1-7 when they didn't. So, like you said, the run game is pivotal for this team. And I think they have the offense that can come in the Big 12 and make an immediate impact. They did lose 3 offensive lineman starters from 2022, especially their star center who went to the U. But they bring in Alabama transfer Amari Knight and a stud from Kent State, Marcellus Marshall. So that should help restock their offensive line and hopefully give them the push that they need. They got R.J. Harvey, who's the returning running back who was splitting time last year, but still had 804 yards and 5 touchdowns and averaged 6.7 yards per carry. Like you said, with Plumlee, he's a pretty good player. Over 800 yards rushing, over 2,500 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I don't really see the offense being a problem for them. The defense is where we'll definitely see what they're made of. Their strength is their defensive line. It's good, but it's not elite. You know what I mean?
They lost Big Cat Bryant, didn't they?
I think so, but I know they bring back Tremont Morris Brash, who's pretty much the key to the pass rush. He's the returning sack and tackle for loss leader for the team. And the back seven of that defense has a lot of questions. They bring back leading tackler Jason Johnson, who had 126 tackles last season, and they bring in Clemson transfer Fred Davis, who will compete for the number 1 corner spot. He may boost that secondary, but it still would need a lot of help.
All right, so let's throw some numbers out there. 31st in scoring offense, 9th in rushing offense. Like we said, they're going to run that rock. 46th in scoring defense, 69th in total defense, and 16th in third down conversion percentage. Normally don't really throw that out there, but 16th is actually really good. So shout out to them. 38th overall recruiting class. Like I said, Gus Malzahn is going to offense. Gus Malzahn specialty. We're going to jump into the schedule where they play Kent State. Shout out to Mac, but I have UCF taking the W.
Yeah, I have them taking a W as well. I think in these first 3 weeks, they are their only guaranteed wins, and it's not Boise State, but the other one after that.
Well, Boise State lost Hank Bachmeier, who kind of got benched last year, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But next game at Boise State on the blue turf, which I have UCF taking the W.
I have them taking a W as well, but I don't think that's a guaranteed.
All right, from Boise State, we go to FCS Villanova. This ain't basketball. Give me UCF.
For sure. Give me UCF on that one.
All right, then first game for them at Big 12 play at Kansas State. As previously stated, I have an L.
I have an L as well.
Then we go to Baylor at home, where I have a W, as previously stated.
I have them taking an L at Baylor.
All right, from Baylor to at Kansas, where I have another L for UCF.
Another L as well for them. Jayhawks get them.
Yep, and from Kansas to I can do this. All right, so I have W's for the rest of the schedule. At Oklahoma, a W. West Virginia, a W. At Cincy, a W. Oklahoma State, a W. At Texas Tech, a W. I ain't trying to hear it, Ace. And then final game, senior day, Houston as a W. Go ahead, Ace.
So basically, they're your Texas Tech. What you're telling me?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I have them taking an L to Oklahoma, a W against West Virginia at home. I have them going into Cincinnati and getting a W. I have them taking an L at home against Oklahoma State, a L against Texas Tech, and a W against Houston.
So I have UCF being 10-2, 7-2 in conference play, making them bowl eligible. Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, 10-2 is insane. I have them at 7-5 or 6-6.
Hey, look, you got your Texas Tech one off. I got my UCF one off. We even.
Hey, everybody got one, man.
All right, and for the last team of the Big 12, we have West Virginia University. Sorry, Mark, you might not like me after this segment. West Virginia finished 5-7 last year, 3-6 in conference play. Lost JT Daniels to Rice. Lost Bryce Ford Wheaton to the NFL. Lost Sam James. Lost Caden Prather to Maryland. Lost Tony Mathis, as previously stated, to Houston. CJ Donaldson had a great freshman year. I expect him to make a great leap to his sophomore year. I really like CJ Donaldson. Power with speed. I really like what I saw from CJ Donaldson last year. Devin Carter transfers in from North Carolina State. Tied 50th for scoring offense. 116th for scoring defense. 45th on third down conversion percentage. 87th in third down conversion percentage on defense. So they're, you know what I'm saying, not really good there. 10 starters return, 5 on offense, 5 on defense. Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, I'm about as low as it gets on West Virginia this year, unfortunately. Head coach Neil Brown is definitely going to be on the hot seat. I mean, this is a team that allowed 32.9 points per game last year and 42 in their losses, you know? So I just can't see them really bringing much heat this year. You know, it's going to be hard to bounce back after a 1-4 start, which I have them as.
Ooh, actually. I actually have 2-2. And you know why? All right, so these West Virginia had the 48th overall recruiting class. We're going to hop into the schedule where at Penn State is an L.
Yeah, I have that as an L as well.
Then we're going to Duquesne, where I have that as a W. Shout out FCS school, Duquesne.
Yeah, they better savor this one. It's the only one they
Duquesne
get.
actually had a safety. I really liked Andrew DeMetto at one point. I don't know if he's still there. I think he's gone now, but he was nice. Moving on from Duquesne to Pitt, backyard brawl. I have this as an L.
L.
To Texas Tech, where I have a W at home.
L.
All right, at TCU, where I have this as an L.
L.
At Houston, I have an L.
L.
Oklahoma State, I have a W.
L.
And then I can end it. I know we about to probably agree here. At UCF, L. BYU, L. Oklahoma, L. Cincy, L. And Baylor at Baylor, L.
Cincy, I just feel like pride-wise, they may sneak that one out.
I'm not mad at it. Not mad at it. So I had West Virginia finishing at 3-9, 2-7 in conference play. Two games behind of what they finished last year. Your boy, the high seat might be hotter, or he might get fired.
Yeah, I think your boy getting fired, and I have them at 2-10 this upcoming season.
All right, so my Big 12 championship game is, as stated earlier, Texas versus Kansas State. Texas wins, going 12-1. Technically, they're still 9-0. I don't think that counts towards your record, but 12-1, and maybe fighting for a playoff spot. Go ahead, Ace, give me a Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, I have my Big 12 championship game the same as Texas and Kansas State, and I have Texas winning to go to the Sugar Bowl and playing the college football final. I mean,
all right, and my Big 12 player of the year, obviously, if Texas goes 11-1 or 12-1 with the game, 9-0 undefeated in the Big 12 conference, it has to be Quinn Ewers as player of the year.
Absolutely. Quinn Ewers is going to have to go out for those boys in order to, fulfill this prophecy that we have for him.
Turn me
All right, cool.
up.
All right, and so my Big 12 standings follows as this: 1, Texas; 2, Kansas State; 3, UCF. I know, Ace, I'm going to kill you too when you say yours. 4, Oklahoma; 5, Kansas; 6, TCU; 7, Baylor; 8, BYU; 9, Oklahoma State; 10, Cincy; 11, West Virginia; 12, Texas Tech; 13, Houston; and 14, Iowa State. Give me yours.
I feel like mine's a little more respectful than yours. I have Texas number 1, K-State number 2, Oklahoma number 3, Texas Tech number 4, TCU number 5, Baylor number 6, Oklahoma State number 7, UCF number 8, Kansas number 9, Iowa State number 10, BYU 11, Houston 12, Cincy 13, and West Virginia at the bottom.
All right, so that about wraps up the Big 12. Thank you for hanging in there with us. I know it was another long episode, but again, 14 teams in the conference, and we just have so much to talk about. And it's easy for me to lose time talking sports with my guy Ace. So Ace, I'm gonna let you get some final words.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure as always, man. I look forward to next time.
Yes, sir. As you know, Ace is an open door invitation for you, my boy. Just let me know if you want to do a conference, if any games coming up you want to talk about the U, or even Saturday when I go live to talk about in the season. Hey, just to let y'all know that during the season, I will be going live around maybe 10, 11 o'clock to talk about the games prior and the games going on. So anytime you want to hop on, just let me know.
Hey, man, I love that. I for sure want to get my Lee Corso on.
Yes, sir. No questions. So my last words is this: Michigan State. I have y'all winning 10 games. The cat's out the bag. If you watched the last episode, let's prove the world wrong. Let's shock the world. Don't laugh, Ace, because you know what happened last time we played the U. But that's neither here nor there. Let's shock the world. Tuck is coming. Thank you.
Shock the universe.
Thank you again, Joe, for giving me this platform, and I'm obviously appreciative of it. I can't really thank you enough for real. And man, that's really it for last words. I'm gonna get into some chats real quick. So Ace is now newly a part of the chat because he became a member. He's now a pro member, which again, shout out to you for that. You can become a member by tier levels. The pro level gets you into one chat of your choice. All-star level gets you into all of the chats minus the refuse to lose chat. And you get in the refuse to lose chat by becoming a superstar member, which is $9.99. So the tiers go pro $2.99, all-star $4.99, which I am, and superstar, which is $9.99 a month. You get badges by your name, priority comments, emotes, things of that nature. The chats, man, they're real fun. They're real inquisitive. Me and Trent, shout out to Trent. We had a real lengthy conversation about conferences and how they're screwing each other over and how yet big wigs want to blame players for NIL and all this other stuff, saying how it's ruining the game. When in actuality, they're ruining the game in terms of logistics and everything with the things they're doing now. They're about to literally take down a conference. The conference literally has only 4 teams left.
I agree as well. I think logistically they're making everything a nightmare, but we can't act like this hasn't always been happening. I mean, the Pac-12 was the Pac-10, you know, or Pac-8 or whatever, you know what I mean? Things change over time, but having teams in the Pacific play teams that are in like Central Time Zone, like that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, Big East don't exist in football no more. It's basketball, but not in football. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to, you know, hey, maybe you disagree with what me and Ace said, especially Texas Tech. You can join the chat. You can join the chat. You know, give us your opinions. Maybe, you know what I'm saying, you're a football guy and you watch some of our segments about football. You're like, man, I think these guys are tripping. I think such and such is tripping. I think the opposite of what Carl says or what Joe said or Dave or Tomo. Become a member, join these chats. Or maybe you do agree with us and you just want to say, hey, I got some knowledge too. Join the chats. We'll welcome you with open arms. Ain't nobody going to dish you unless, you know what I'm saying, you coming in speaking blasphemous. You saying things that's crazy, we're going to jump on you. But other than that, and I got to say pause because I know it's coming. But other than that, as long as you know what you're talking about, we welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, you got to at least have some facts or something behind what you're saying. You can't just be spewing out some BS.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, that is the end of the Big 12 preview with CTC with my guy Ace. And we out of here. Peace.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast video. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.
Yeah, my boy.